Hi everybody, it's Miss Compton again, and today I get to talk to you about rounding. But first, I want to know, and I'm really excited to know this, who has ridden a roller coaster? Who has ridden a roller coaster? And I wish so bad that I got to know who exactly has ridden a roller coaster because I love roller coasters and that would be something really cool to know. And also, I want to know if you like roller coasters. I know probably some of you really do like them. Probably some of you don't like them at all. They're way too scary. And maybe some of you think, yeah, I like them, but sometimes I have to overcome my fears of them. And so today, we're going to talk about rounding, and we're going to talk about how it's kind of like rounding, okay? Roller coasters are kind of like rounding. So whenever you're on a roller coaster, okay, and you're going up real slow, you're going up, okay, and you get kind of to the top, but not to the top, what do you think would happen? You didn't make it to the top yet, and you just stopped. You'd probably roll backwards, right? Because you didn't make it to the top. Well, what if you make it to exactly the middle? What do you think? What do you think might happen on a roller coaster? You'd probably go down, right? You'd probably just go straight down the hill. So we're going to talk about rounding today and how it's kind of like that. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Rounding. Okay. All right. Here it goes. Rounding. By the end of the lesson, hopefully you're going to be able to say, I can round a multi-digit number to any place value. So we're going to talk about rounding. What exactly is rounding? Well, rounding is a type of estimation, okay? But it changes numbers to make them easier to work with, okay? So sometimes you have a number that's so specific and you're just trying to quick do some math. It's much easier to use a rounding, okay? Because it makes them easier to work with. But the difference between rounding and regular estimation is that rounding changes a number just a little bit so that it stays as close to the original value as possible. When you've seen rounding before, you've probably seen where it said round to the nearest 100 or round to the nearest 1, okay? That's how you know that you're rounding and you're trying to change it as little as possible to what you need to try to keep it as close to the value as possible. So if you look down here, you can see I've got these little two cars here and gas stations, okay? That's kind of like how rounding is because this is your number line, okay? If you want to go here or here, you need to see what's the closest way that you can get to the number you need, okay? So here's your midpoint. Pretend like if this is 0 over here, 5 over here, and 10 over here, okay? So if the red car is on this side, the red car is going to go to this gas station, right? Because it's closer. So you're not going to tell this car over here to go all the way over here to this gas station, are you? No, you're going to tell it to go to the closest one as possible, and that's how it is with rounding. When is rounding useful? Well, like we already said, it can help you do math more easily. It can make the numbers a little bit easier to work with. It can make a number easier to communicate, but still accurate. Like if my mom said, how many cookies did you eat? And I said, well, Mom, I ate 5,423. That's probably, that's really long. It'd be much easier to tell my mom, like, oh, I ate about 5,000 cookies, right? That's easier to say. So another way that it is useful is to know how much of something you need to buy, okay? If I want to get pencils for my whole class, okay, and they come in packages of 5, but I need enough for 20 students, okay? I can use rounding to figure out about how many packages I would need, okay? And we'll look at some examples later. And you can also use rounding to know how much money you need for something. If something cost $50.24, right, I could just bring $51. That'd be much easier, right, instead of counting out my 43 cents. So how do I round? The first thing you're going to do when you round is you're going to underline the digit of the place value that you're rounding to. So if it said round to the nearest hundreds, you're going to go to the hundreds place and underline that digit. Next, you're going to look to the right. Next, you're going to ask yourself, is this digit less than or more than 5? Okay? If round the underlined digit or keep it the same. So next, you're going to look at it. If it's less than 5, you're going to keep it the same. If it's more than 5, you're going to round up. And then you're going to change all the numbers after that to zeros. Okay? And we're going to practice. So now we're going to think about a roller coaster, okay? So pretend like this roller coaster is kind of like a number line, except for it curves, okay? Over here is 0. Here's our midpoint, 5, because that's in the middle, right? And here is 10, all right? So say we had the number 3. I'd say that's about maybe 2 or 3 on the number line. So what do you think we would do? Would we round up? Would the roller coaster go down, or would it go back down to 0? Right? It'd probably go down, right back down to 0. But if we had maybe 6, we'd round up, right? Because it's just going to fall down to that 10. So let's do an example really quick, and I am going to get something to write with. Here we go. Move myself over here. Get a pencil. So let's try rounding this number to different place values. Okay, well, let's round this number 364,938,573. Let's round it. Let's start out with the hundreds spot. So here's ones, tens, hundreds. We're using what we know about place value to help us round. So hundreds right here. Oops. Oops, it's hard to write with it. Here we go. Underline. Okay, now we're going to look to the right. That would be right here. Okay, this 7. Let's do our number line. Let's say 500 over here. We'll do 550. And over here, we'll do 600. See how we found the beginning, the midpoint, and the end? Okay, so this is 7, and it's in the tens place, so we know that it represents 70. That's the value 70 of the 7. So 5, 6, 7. It's right here. Okay, so are we going to go up, or are we going to go back? We're going to go up, right? Because it's closer to 600. So if we're rounding to the hundreds, that means we're going to change this number. We're going to make it a 6. Okay? And we're going to change these numbers, all the numbers after it, to zeros. So now our number rounded to the nearest 100 is 364,938,600. Okay, see what we did there? Now we're going to go ahead and move on and practice some real world examples, things that you might encounter every day. Okay? Let's go to real world. Okay. My family took a trip to the beach. The first day we drove 457 miles. On the second day we drove 234 miles. And on the third day we drove 107 miles. How many miles did we drive in all? Well, if we're trying to figure this math up quick in our heads, and we can use rounding, right, to try to make these numbers easier to work with, okay? So if we look at 457, and let's round it to the nearest 100, okay? So we underlined our 4, okay? And is this number less than 5 or more than 5 or 5? Okay, it is 5 on our number line. So that means it's right in the middle. So if it's 5, think about our roller coaster. Remember, if you get to the middle, you're just going to go down, just going to go to the end. So we know that we're going to round up. So we'll make that 500. Okay. On the second day, we drove 234 miles. Okay, we're rounding to the nearest 100, so underline hundreds place, and that is, there's a 2 there. Okay, 30. This is our midpoint, right? So that would be 250. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For time's sake, let's just pretend like that's right, okay? So 3, it'd be about here, right? So if we're thinking about our roller coaster, it wouldn't be in the middle, it'd be before the middle, right? So we probably just fall right back down, okay? So that means we're gonna change this to 0 because we're keeping the underlined number the same. Okay, so it's gonna be 200. Okay, let's erase this. Okay. Oh, that's big. Oh my goodness. 5. Okay. And on the third day, we drove 107. So if we put 100 down here, if we're rounding to the hundreds place, that's the lowest we can go. Okay. 150 in the middle, that's our midpoint. And 200 over here. Where do you think 107 is? 107. This is a 0, right? So that's all the way back here. On a roller coaster, that'd be like at the very beginning, right? We just go back down. So that means this is a 0 and this is a 0, so 100. So now that we rounded, which when you get used to rounding, you can do it really quickly in your mind, we can add up these numbers much more easily. We can do 500 plus 200 plus 100, and that is 5, 6, 7, 8. 800 miles, right? So that's much easier than trying to add 457, 234, and 107, right? Okay, so let's look at another example. This would be an example of when you want to make numbers easier to communicate, okay? Angelo wanted to tell his mom how many people were at his football game, football being soccer. There were exactly 167 people there. Round to the nearest 100 to help Angelo decide what to tell his mom. This is our number, 167. To the nearest 100, that means we're going to underline the number in the digit in the hundreds place, right? So 100. Our midpoint will be 150. And our endpoint would be 200, right? So we're looking at this number, the number to the right. That's 6. That's more than 5, right? So on our roller coaster, be about right there, right? Okay, so that means we're going to go this way. We're going to go to 200. So we're going to change that 1 to a 2 and change all the numbers after it to zeros. So Angelo can tell his mom, there were about 200 people there. Okay. All right. And we'll look at a couple more examples. Let's look at one more example. Let's see. Okay, let's do this one with money. Jasmine wants to buy some books from the book fair. Altogether, they cost $34. She has 5 $10 bills in her piggy bank. How many should Jasmine take to school? Okay, so since she has $10 bills, we're going to round to the nearest 10. Okay, so that means I underline the digit in the tens place. It's a 3. Okay, so our starting point would be 30, 35, and 40. So 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, is less than 5, right? On a roller coaster, it'd be about there, right? So that means we're just going to go right back to the start. So we're going to keep this one the same and change this one to the right to a 0. But the funny thing about money is that with money, you definitely don't want to have too little, right? So if she showed up with 3 $10 bills, that wouldn't be enough, right? She'd be short $4. So when you're using money, sometimes you need to bring one extra. So she would bring 4 $10 bills. That was kind of a weird one. So that's why sometimes you need to pay attention. It could be a little bit tricky because with money, you want to be as accurate as possible. That's why you need to use rounding, because you definitely need to have enough money or you can't buy what you need, right? All right. Let's see what we got. Let's do one of these roller coaster ones. It's kind of cool. Okay. $7,549 people stood in line to ride this roller coaster last summer. About how many people rode the roller coaster? So, 7,549. So our starting point would be probably 7,000. So we're going to put that over here. Oh, it didn't take the number with it? Oh my goodness. There we go. And what would our midpoint be? Probably 7,500, right? So we'll move that to our midpoint. And what would be our ending point? 8,000. Okay. So here we have our little roller coasters here. Our little roller coaster car. I'm going to pick the blue one. 7,549. We're going to round to the nearest 1,000. Okay. So I'll pick up this roller coaster and I'm going to move it to 7,549. It's a little tiny bit past 7,500, right? So it'll be about right there. Move it a little bit so you can see it. So as you can see, we're past this midpoint here, right? We're past the 5. Okay, so that means we're gonna fall down to 8,000 over here, right? So 7,549 rounded to the nearest thousand is 8,000. Okay, 8,000. So before I move on, I just want to talk about really quick, go back up here to what is rounding, because we really need to know what the difference between rounding and regular estimation is. Yes, rounding is a type of estimation, but remember that rounding is more specific. Okay, you're changing it as little as possible to be as accurate as possible, right? So rounding is typically more accurate than regular estimation. So I hope that now you can see and understand that rounding is kind of like a roller coaster. I hope that now you can say, I can round a multi-digit number to any place value. And you know you can do that, right? Because all you have to do is underline the number that, the digit that you're rounding to. So if we were rounding to 300 million in this one right here, we would underline the 100 millions place, right? Right there. And then, you know, you only have to look at this number right here to see if it's more than 5, or less than 5. Then all the numbers after that turn to 0, right? So you can easily round any number to any place value. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching this lesson. I just want to talk a little bit about our Google Forms here. Show what you know rounding. You're going to show me what you know, okay? I just want to talk about this question really quick, okay? So you've seen this before. We did it the other day, and I hope that now after you've watched this, it'll be super easy for you. But remember that you're rounding this number, okay, to different place values, all right? This will be the thousands place. So you're going to go to these numbers, okay? And you're gonna see which one is rounded to the thousands place, and then you're gonna hit that bubble, all right? On this one, ones place, hit the bubble, all right? All right, thank you. I hope I get to see you guys next week. I don't know, but thank you so much for watching my lesson today.